Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com.
John, how are you?
Steve, I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it. Okay, so here we are. We're headed to the end of January, and we're about to begin February, and there are times when especially younger players will hit a wall and so forth because they haven't practiced this much in their lives. How do you feel about where your team is mentally right now?
Good mental state. We're coming off 2 wins, and, we have a group that's really just seeking opportunities to compete, and they're still trying to figure out who they are as a group. So with that type of learning curve, we're in the trenches right now. We're figuring it out day to day, and this group comes to the gym with the right attitude. And, I wouldn't say we have approached maybe this idea of hitting a wall just yet. We've had a lot of ups and downs already within the season, and I think the attitudes of this group individually and now, obviously becoming more of a collective attitude is trending in the right direction.
I mean, you win by 8, then you win by 10. So games that go into the last 5 minutes, in those final 5 minutes, what are you seeing in terms of winning plays that win the game for you?
For us, really, it's a combination of not turning the ball over and then really just getting consecutive defensive stops. Sometimes in the last 5 minutes, the game can play itself out in a variety of ways, but there are sequences that are really important, whether it be a score, a stop, and a score, or the other way around, stop, score, stop. So we want to really be on the right side of these sequences while making sure that from an offensive standpoint, we are taking care of the ball and we're having a purpose, which is something that, we're continuously trying to teach our group, what is the purpose and how do we get the ball to positions on the floor offensively that we can be successful, and then defensively making sure that we're taking away either the three-point line or the best player on the other team.
John, how much time in a practice do you spend just on situational basketball?
We probably spend 15 minutes a day on situational basketball.
Yep.
And it's a legitimate, we really break it down in its most granular form because I want our group to understand why we are doing things in critical moments so that they have a good confidence in what we're doing, but also, most importantly, they understand what we're doing.
Right, exactly. Your background in video, which you were able to sit down and break games down. What did it take then for you to continue to use that extensive experience of breaking down video, but then have the ability to communicate what you see to the individuals that need to know it?
Well, my background, I think, is an advantage in today's world of athlete because everything is so visual. So we teach as a staff. I teach as a head coach through video, in the non-traditional form, which means I will show a clip of somebody in the NBA doing something almost identical to what we are doing. Right. And I'll build out the film in a fashion that our players can see it real time, somebody else doing it correctly, and then the following clip within that film session, they can see us doing it either incorrectly or, it's an opportunity for us as a staff, for me, to applaud them for doing it correctly. So I use film often because it's a great teaching tool, because it allows, it just allows the players of today's world just to see as opposed to hear.
And what doesn't film do? It doesn't lie.
It doesn't lie. Doesn't lie.
It does not lie. How did it feel to? This will be like a kidding point between the two of us here. But how did it feel to win in Soika the other day? Because that'd been the crazy thing to this point.
It was a nice win. You know what, Steve? Interestingly, we have had a little bit more success on the road than we've had at home.
Yeah.
And part of it is maybe the quality of opponent that we played at home.
Sure.
And the last 5 minutes have gone the other direction, some of these home games. So I got to tell you, our home crowds have been great. The energy in Soika, it brings back fond memories. I can feel it when I walk on the floor pregame. And, we're inching towards an energy level that historically has been attached to Bucknell basketball in Soika, and we just have to do our part. Our team has to do our part, and I know that the campus and the community will rally behind us.
Yeah, and they're doing that, which is interesting. What's interesting, though, is you're not a team that goes out. Now, I think when you've been a couple here and there, you're winning the 3-point line. But, man, you do not get a lot of opportunities at the free throw line, John. You really don't.
Yeah.
Now, I know at this point, Steve preaches to choir. Coach is like going, yep, Steve sees it. What does that do to the margin of error when you're not getting as many of the free opportunities that maybe the other guy gets? And this is not an officiating question.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, schematically, you want to get to the free throw line. So my upbringing, there's some stats that, as I came along in the coaching world, these stats were ingrained in me in an early part of my basketball career, player, but now coach. Is you want to be in a position at the end of the game where you're making more free throws than your opponent takes. That's a box that if you can check, you put yourself in a higher likelihood of winning the game. And so when we're not getting as many free throw attempts as we'd like, certainly it puts a little bit more pressure on us to make shots. I do think that we're scoring in the paint, and so something that we are constantly trying to figure out and to help our group get to the free throw line a little bit more is how do we draw a little bit more body contact, and how do we put ourselves in position to get to the free throw line when we're in the paint. Sometimes what happens is you pump fake and you jump away from the contact if you're in position to potentially draw a foul. And that's experience. The more experienced players, the players that have played hundreds, in over 100 games, they know how to get to the free throw line. Penn State, Ace Baldwin, he knows how to get to the free throw line. He knows body bumps, movements, defensive rotations, etc. We're still in that learning stage of, I get a guy in the air, how do I then get to the free throw line? And so we're close. We're just not completing these plays to ultimately get to the free throw line.
You are a 75% free throw shooting team. That's really good. What does that then mean to your ability to close out games, because you can get the ball to the right guys that when a team has to foul, you've got a pretty good shot of getting points and expanding?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly gives you confidence as a coach that you can close out a game. Interestingly, we were higher about 2 weeks ago. We've actually in a little bit of a rough patch in our free throw shooting the last 4 games or so. We missed a couple free throws in our game at Lafayette that we typically don't miss. Our starting point guard, who was 14 for 14 at the time, missed 2 in a row. And free throws are a combination of mechanics and then really just poise. There's a mentality and routine to being a really good free throw shooter that can be disrupted if you miss in timely moments. And I fancy myself as a good free throw shooter, and I've been in it. It's like being a good golfer. You're on the tee box, and you just can't get the drive straight. And so you just kind of have to work it out. We've missed a couple that we don't typically miss. I do have great faith in our guys. We do work on free throws pretty regularly, but we don't maybe do it in the fashion that others do it. We're not taking hundreds of free throws a day. Ours are very, situational. We want to concentrate when we're taking these free throws and build a confidence when we're on that foul line.
You didn't have to analyze my golf swing, John. Jeez. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. John, you got Loyola coming up. We know what their record is. Your players are aware of the record. But you're playing really well right now. What does it take psychologically to convince your team, I don't care who you're playing, it's quota but us?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a lot. If you were in our locker room right now, Steve, you'd know pretty quickly my respect level and, in turn, our team's respect level for Loyola. We don't look at records. It is not about really, at the end of the day, Steve, at this point in the year, it's not about our opponent. It's just about us.
Yep.
It's about us taking the right approach. It's about us bringing, I use this phrase quite a bit internally, a hard hat mentality. Like, this is a work day. Yep. So we have a great respect for Loyola. I think Loyola is supremely talented, and they've had a couple rough stretches within the course of games that, they've lost. But they're right there. They just beat Navy at Navy.
Yes,
and they're a talented group. So we don't. This group is humble. They're learning how to win. We don't take anybody lightly whatsoever, myself included. And again, to your point, it's really about us. It's about building our personality to a point that no matter what happens throughout the course of a 40-minute game, which adversity will hit, are we built strong enough to come out of that 40 minutes with the W?
Yeah. It's not like I've never been around Tavares Hardy or Jershawn Cobb in my lifetime and career. Those guys are good, hard-working guys who are now in the coaching ranks, so no question. What would it mean, one final question, you talked about Soika becoming an exciting place. What would it mean to your guys to get a big crowd in there Wednesday night?
It's huge. It's a huge competitive advantage for us. I mean, at any point in the college basketball season, in any arena and gym in the country, if you're at home and you have energy in the building, it gives you a competitive advantage. Now, as it relates to Soika, because of how nice our arena is, the orange and the blue, and history at Bucknell, it just carries more weight. So we have to do our part. I understand that. When I was a player, the year we beat Kansas, we had to build it. You build it, and people respect, how hard you compete. I'm from Philly, Steve. I know it, man.
You got that right.
I know it. You got to play hard. You need people to see the effort level, and that's a big part of this. So I think our group is playing hard right now, and we just got to keep doing what we want to do.
Hey, man, if you're out there on the asphalt in Philadelphia in the summertime, right, playing ball, there's only one way to play, John. There's one way to play.
That's right. There's a winner's court and a loser's court where I come from.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait. You don't want to be on the loser's court. You might not ever get back to that winner's court.
You got that right. And the other part too is there's certain arenas I go to where I refer to it as a claustrophobic environment. Soika is a claustrophobic environment, and that's what I love about the place. It's a claustrophobic environment. Yep. Hey, John, always a pleasure. Good luck this week. Really appreciate you as always, my friend.
Yeah, you too. I appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
All right, John Griffin